Hey, what's up guys? Everything Apple Pro here. Today let's take a look at Google's new phone, the Google Pixel 4. I want to go ahead and see how much faster or slower it is versus Apple's iPhone 11 Pro, and then get some camera samples in there because this phone is legendary for, well, the legacy of them is for the nighttime shots, and I'm very curious. Before we jump into that, I just want to show you a couple things about it. First off, the motion sensor, and basically you can approach it. It'll wake up for you. And here we've got the motion sensing for music, so you can use a gesture with the radar sensor and swap songs. I found that it works 9 out of 10 times. The further away you get, obviously it's not going to work, so you got to be fairly close in there. Live transcribe works fairly well. Привет, как дела? Меня зовут Все яблоко профессионал. That translated it fairly well. The Google Pixel 4, looking a little dated with the Snapdragon 855, a full generation behind Apple's A13. Doesn't even have the Snapdragon 855 Plus, although that would require additional cooling. The advantage it holds is 2 additional gigabytes of RAM, so we'll see how that reflects in round 2, where we have to keep more applications open. Now this is running a day-to-day real-world speed test, a bunch of applications you might find throughout your day, and seeing which one finishes or completes the test first. Now one thing I noticed about the iPhone this time around, since my last iPhone 11 Pro versus 10s versus 10 speed test, is that the applications seem more optimized, things are smoother, running better, and the iPhone has had a few software updates since. So it's on iOS 13.1.3 now, and things are looking really good. And there's 2 things I'd like to note about the Pixel. So for one, the display. In a bright environment, outdoors or under these bright lights, it's not as bright. It doesn't look as good in max brightness versus the iPhone. And as we know, the 11 Pro does have the world's best display, named by DisplayMate. So they could have done better there, although the 90 Hertz I'd say makes up for that. That's a trade-off I'd take any day to have that on the iPhone. 2, why does it have an old processor? The Snapdragon 855 is not the newest and the most current. I know that the 855 Plus draws more power, and these don't have the largest batteries, but even with the 90 Hertz display on after running this test, the battery performed fairly well. Anyways, back to the test. So the iPhone is leaps and bounds ahead of the Google Pixel 4, already finishing up the test with our 4K video editing portion. At this point, the iPhone is already finishing up the 4K video export, all while the Google Pixel is still several applications behind. The Apple A13 is truly a marvel of modern engineering. Finished up with a round 1 time of 2 minutes and 8 seconds, and just now the Google Pixel is getting to the 4K video export. Although this is one area where the Google Pixel did surprise me, it had a ridiculously fast export time, better than any other smartphone that I've seen with this clip, so props to them on that. It handled the export very well, but it finished with a round 1 time of 2 minutes and 53 seconds. So here's the big difference between the two. While the Google Pixel has an additional 2 gigabytes of RAM, it had absolutely zero, not one application preloaded in the background. It literally dumped every single one to finish that 4K video export, and that may be the secret to why it's so fast, but I had to run through every single one. Not even the last application was preloaded. It's ridiculous. So there's some sort of optimization going on where it dumps every app in the background, and that's quite unusual to see with a smartphone with more RAM. And this is where it became quite clear to me that the iPhone has had some optimizations since it first launched. As in my first speed test on an earlier version of iOS 13, almost none of the applications were open, but everything since Minecraft was in this version of the test. Props to Apple for doing that. Maybe we'll see something of the sort on the Pixel, as it is still a brand new device, but I'm very disappointed. Its RAM management was whack and completely ineffective compared to the iPhone with its inferior 4 gigabytes. You never know when you'll need your phone in a pinch. After it dies and there's a serial killer chasing you, this is the ultimate test of that. In 3, 2, 1, and attempting to start them up at the same time here. Android 10 on the left, iOS 13.1.3 on the right. And this one does not have any carrier labels, no screens like that. And wow, just like that, it starts up way faster than iOS. So I'm liking this. Android stripped down is such a unique experience, so much better than anything Huawei or Samsung offer. And there it is on the iPhone, so a little bit slower there. And I just want to give a shout out to Google. The amount of refinement the Pixel has gone through software-wise, I really feel it. Like using the Mate 30, even the Note 10, it does not offer this level of refinement. I love the gestures, everything is snappy, everything feels great. And I want to test the individual app speed here on a couple applications. So generally though, both were pretty quick. Snapchat, 1, 2, a little bit faster there on the Pixel. Instagram, 1, 2. just a smidge faster on the Pixel. Camera app 1, 2, and this one is ready to take pictures sooner. iPhone not far behind. Photoshop, and the iPhone loaded this one faster. And rendering the same image here, 10K, and the iPhone loads that one faster. So for general app launching, some of the smaller stuff, it looks like the Pixel loads those sooner. Heavier stuff, the iPhone. And let's take a look at the Geekbench scores. So this is using Geekbench 5 and the new calculations. Oh wow, that's actually kind of sad. Why is this so low? So that's the Snapdragon 855, the non-plus variant. Unusually low score even for that processor. And 6 gigabytes of RAM, so we've got double, more than double in the single core. And that impressive Apple A13 gives us a 3,366 on the multi. So next up, let's get an Antutu benchmark going. And just for fun, seeing how hot these devices get, the iPhone 11 Pro reaches a scalding 107 degrees on its hottest point, actually 107.4, so about the same. There are the Antutu results. Snapdragon 855 already a little long in the tooth. It is time for the 865. Next up, let's test Google's Face Unlock versus Face ID, and I want to test something funny out. So this will unlock with your eyes closed, and yeah, it does. So if you're sleeping and your girlfriend is curious and wants to get in there, she could do that. If you're dead at your funeral, they can lift it up to your face and it will unlock. Okay, let's test speed-wise here. So 1, 2, 3. Oh, wow. So yeah, quite a difference there. Animation-wise, Apple's got a way longer drawn-out animation. 1, 2, 3. Both are quick. Apple's, of course, is more secure. And one more thing I'd like to commend Google on with the Pixel 4 is adapting a 90 hertz display. It's smoother. You know, it's everything I've ever wanted out of an iPhone display, and supposedly we're getting it in 2020 with a 120 hertz display potentially on the iPhone, but it's so great. I mean, everything is so smooth, launching your applications. It's just a pleasure to use this phone, and going back to the iPhone, there's a very noticeable difference. Now, what I'm most interested about with the Google Pixel is, of course, the nighttime capabilities. The Pixel line is notorious for it, being able to take good pictures with night sight. So let's see, 1, 2, 3. It is a separate mode, not automatic like on the iPhone 11 Pro. So if you don't go into that mode, you will not get the same great picture. Wow. Definitely the iPhone in terms of colors, like down on the rocks. It's more natural looking to what I'm actually seeing here in real life. That is incredible. Okay, and this is nighttime video here in my home city. So the Google Pixel 4 did not get the ultra-wide lens, unfortunately, so it cannot do that. But the iPhone's isn't even that great at nighttime. It's very noisy. Still, both are incredibly capable, look great. And with wind, I guess we'll see on the computer what kind of sound we're getting. Both very watchable, that I'm seeing. Great. These are the undisputed kings of nighttime photography. The Google Pixel has long been known for its night sight feature, and the iPhone 11 Pro with its night mode really caught up and even surpassed the Google Pixel in some areas. Now, depending on the lighting and the situation where the lighting is coming from, the skin tones would sometimes look better on the Pixel, sometimes on the 11 Pro, but both looked fantastic. I noticed that the Google Pixel was a lot cooler. It didn't always reflect the actual colors of what I was seeing. Some objects would be displayed differently, but you know, you really can't go wrong with either one. It's such a small difference between the two. And some daytime footage, 4K with this beautiful autumn foliage. So there's one concern I had with the Pixel. Notice this. When I shift to a more green environment, notice how cold the picture gets. Then going to orange, everything lightens up, vivid, more bright, and then it's cold. I don't understand why it does that transition, but it's definitely noticeable. Look at the green leaves, how blue they get as soon as I pan downwards. So there's some sort of color correction issue. I have faith that Google will fix that. Otherwise, in 4K, both look fantastic. You know, in daytime, most modern smartphones are gonna look good. The true test here was in the dark, and both did really well. Personally, I like the iPhone colors a bit more realistic, but in the daytime, both look great. Of course, Google's legendary support with the app looks fantastic, very easy to use. Somehow, though, Apple one-upped them in the ease of use of how the night mode works. But no complaints to either one. It's up to you. Let me know which one you think looks better in the comments. I'm leaning towards the iPhone because it doesn't have that weird color issue where it makes everything a lot bluer and colder than it looks to me in real life right now. Also, this is testing the 2x telephoto zoom lens, which the Pixel just received. So stabilization while moving, and both do fairly well here. Pixel's working in overdrive, kind of jumping between corner to corner while stationary. Let's do some panning. Yeah, both look great. Of course, everyone was wishing that they would have received an ultra-wide lens, and that's just one area where the Pixel cannot compete. It is a wonderful feature and wonderful addition to the iPhone camera. And that concludes my comparison. Thanks for watching. Hopefully this helped you determine which device you'd rather go for. Peace.